I'm obviously very, very excited being here. Again, the exposure operating system is something that we are very excited to present and introduce and explain. I'll try to make it short and sweet, so it will be super, super clear. But to start and kicking it off, I would say that the Exposure OS, or Exposure Operating System, it's the way that we're now operating the Vulcan product. This is how we're thinking about the Vulcan product. And my goal here is twofold for today. Is one, explain you kind of the under the hood, how Exposure OS comes into play within the Vulcan product, and also show you kind of a glimpse of where we're taking the product. As all the great speakers spoke about today, we're seeing where the trends are going, where the market is going, and we really happy to show you how we're taking the Vulcan product. But first thing first, Exposure OS, obviously, it's more than just risks and vulnerabilities today. The entire attack surface is huge, and the way that we're building the Vulcan platform, or the Vulcan Cyber product, is kind of multi-layer. It all starts with the data lake. We spoke about the integration. We just had a really great question that Aviva answered about integrating. The goal of Vulcan is the fact that we're agnostic. We're supporting essentially any, I would say, tool out there, scanner or resource, etc., and we can integrate it into our platform. When we're saying any, so as Aviva said, it doesn't have to be in built-in API. We can integrate into existing API very easily, or just use our own kind of complementary to the API and just build integrated report into our system. Once the data is in, the data lake, essentially what we're building, we're correlating all the data into one Vulcan data model, okay? This Vulcan data model is actually something that can expand. It's flexible, and once all the data is in, we're essentially doing all the enrichment and applying all the semantics on top of it, which allows us then to operate and also execute all of your use cases. So what I'm going to do in the kind of next 2 or 3 slides is kind of walk you through on how we're seeing it, and then also explain how it comes into the product. So I just mentioned the data layer. So in the data layer itself, flexible, we have already more than 100 integration. As Aviva mentioned, it's a no-code integration. So if you want to request for a new integration, you can do it relatively simple. We're operating at scale. You asked us how we're essentially deciding what should be the risk, and how we're doing, for example, how we're deciding how to merge things together. All of that is comes into play in the Vulcan data pipeline, and we're doing everything at scale. And once the data is in, we're enriching the data, we're doing the semantics on top of the data, then we can actually have the context, which we're also bringing the threat intel, doing the actual calculation itself, which then opens the door to the next layer. The next layer is actually the operational layer. First thing first, we're doing prioritization. We have a lot of feeds that are coming into our platform. We can manage exceptions. I'll show you stats in the next slide, which is really, really interesting about the number of the numbers that we're seeing within the Vulcan platform. We're doing orchestration at scale also in our platform. A lot of automations. Aviva mentioned briefly if it's email, tickets via Jira, ServiceNow, and we can obviously integrate more tools, and of course, reporting. Once you have all of that, then we can actually support multiple use cases. So some of the things you're seeing on the screen right now, if it's vulnerability risk management, risk-based management, security posture management, all of that is kind of known use cases. that are familiar. And what I know I'm subjective, but what's really beautiful in Vulcan is that the fact that we can actually tailor the platform to your use case. It starts obviously with the integration, the right ticketing in place, the automations in place, and all the way to customizing your report, if it's out-of-the-box report or building your own reports. And essentially, the time to value, you're getting it really, really fast. Just recently, Vulcan was nominated as a leader for the risk management and risk-based management and vulnerability management. And again, we can do it relatively fast and at ease. So all of that together, we're actually seeing really interesting stats within Vulcan. So you saw the numbers a little bit before, but I want to explain a little bit what does that mean? Okay, what does that mean within the Vulcan platform? So taking you all the way back to 1 hour and 45 minutes ago, Yaniv kicked us off and talked about the huge evolution since, I would say, last 10 years, and when Vulcan, or even when Vulcan started back in 2018. The number of tools that our customers were using were much smaller, okay? Now we're actually seeing a huge increase in tools and data sources. More tools, more data, the complexity gets much higher. And when the complexity gets much higher, it's actually the opposite trend. We want to make the platform actually much more simple in order to prioritize and have you guys doing the work that needs to be done first. I like the 9-box that Andy presented as well. That's one of our goals, is to pinpoint the platform is, no matter how much data you have and how many tools you're using, we can pinpoint you to the right direction, which also brings us to, we're seeing a very huge increase in remediation owners. Remediation owners means that we have much more automations in place and much more tracking that needs to be done, and seeing more and more campaigns. All of that together, we're seeing more than 10K daily vulnerabilities. All of these numbers just comes to show you, I don't think it's a surprise, the scale of the I would say the issues that we're dealing on a daily basis. And this is exactly why the ExposureOS, or the Vulcan One platform, really comes to help you doing kind of prioritize your work with that. So that's so combining the demo, the great talks, and what I just showed you. This is all the things that are currently happening in Vulcan Cyber. But as we love in product, and generally we love to know more about the future. And I'm really, really happy to share that great things are coming. I know we're limited at time. I'm not gonna talk to you. I can talk roadmap and features on and on and on, but I promised I'll behave, and I'll do it very short and sweet. So what I'm gonna do next is kind of highlight, I think, the 4 to 5 big things that we're doing. And the first thing first is connect at ease. I talked to you about the dynamic data model that we have already today in Vulcan. So we want to double down on that, okay? Essentially, today when you're integrating into Vulcan, you're making new data sources. So what we're planning ahead is that you can actually customize your data model, and which immediately impacts the way that your business logic operates, and give you an easy access to do it within the Vulcan platform. Today, Vulcan can support it, but now we actually want to move the ability to do so directly within the product itself by you guys. Move fast. We're actually doing a really, really cool technology efforts within our platform, and we're already seeing huge number of decrease in processing time. 98%, for example. This is just for the way that we're normalizing the data. Next is how we're going to actually do really fast processing. And what's cool about it is not just that we're processing fast. That's okay. But what it actually means. It actually means that you can be closer to real time with changes that you're doing, troubleshooting. Vulcan, obviously, we're integrating a lot of tools, but it means that we're maintaining integration with a lot of tools. So if things happen, we can bounce back and doing reprocessing if needed, etc. So we're doing it much faster. Owning your risk. You guys asked some really cool question about the risk, how it's being determined. I think we left a little bit if it's a subjective or objective question, but nonetheless, there are a lot of factors that comes into risk calculation. So risk calculation can be as simple as deciding 2 or 3 parameters, which you're giving weights, or it can be really, really complex, depending on your business logic. Today in Vulcan, we're seeing both. Okay, out of the box, we have something which is relatively simple, but most of our customers are actually implementing their own. With owning your risk in Vulcan, what we're planning is expose the logic within the platform and give you a very simplified UI to something that is not necessarily simplified. Okay, and it means that again you have more control over how you're prioritizing things within your organization. And finally, take action. You saw a brief demo of our Vulcan platform, but we're actually taking it to internally we're calling it like the 2.0. We're making our platform much more action-based. Okay, it's changing some of the UI elements, making it very, very clear what is the next best action needs to be taken, and also fits to what's currently happening with new trends. We spoke about compliance, for example, and a lot more cool things, essentially to adjust the Vulcan platform to the current status. And I think last but not least on my end, and you see I managed to go through almost all my slides without mentioning AI, but I have to mention AI because obviously it's the most spoken about technology, at least in the last few months. But I think AI is going through tremendous evolvement in a really fast pace. And I have to say, and again, I feel open to share that we were not hesitant, more that we wanted to be very cautious in our approach of adopting AI. And because it can do wonderful things, but we want to be very, very careful. Essentially, you're investing in Vulcan to own the risk, all in one platform, and you want to make sure that we're giving reliable and trustworthy results. So when we thought about AI, we essentially dividing our innovation in AI into 3 main categories. The one is insights. The first one is insights. And essentially, there is a lot of information going on in Vulcan platform today, obviously because of the data that is flowing in. And we want to give you an easy access to navigate, have an ability to question or ask question the platform at ease, and doing parsing at ease. And this way, you can extract the insights relatively easy with AI. We're doing it with integrating some of the logic of machine learning that we had before, all the big AI and large language models, but also integrating third-party tools. The second category is integration. So we already said that we can do integrations on a biweekly or integrating to a Vulcan report, but that's great. But we can actually take AI, and we're doing right now really, really cool experiments with actually generating, not just creating the connector, but creating the right configuration for the connector. So today we're normalizing the Vulcan data. your data into Vulcan data model. In the streamlined AI integration, we can also give a recommendation on how this data should be mapped. Obviously, will allow you guys as the experts to your data to also tweak it. But then it will allow you to have an assistant, do better troubleshooting with the integration, and obviously move faster. All of that together, the third category that we're looking at right now is automation, and specifically automation support. We're going to give you an assistant that kind of gives you executive summaries. So there's a lot of assets going up and down, vulnerabilities that are being fixed and then vulnerable again, or a lot of exceptions. You go into the platform, and you want to know the status of your risk, the status of your integration. You can just ask we didn't name it just yet because it's still obviously in planning and exploration mode, but just get the answer fast and more importantly, get a reliable answer. And that's why we're very, very excited about the AI features, but we're being very, very cautious. And that's about that. I would say last sentence on my end, we are really, really, really excited about what's coming in the Vulcan platform. We really strong believers in the exposure operating system. We do believe that with Vulcan, you can see a reliable status of your exposure and have all the operating tools in place in order to execute upon it. And great things are coming.